Yeah.
This is something that Clement had started a while back for two purposes. Number one, to empower you, our members, with the most up-to-date information on anything from taxes to technology, health, business techniques and tools. The idea really is to be able to give information to our members that they can use, tools that they can use to increase their business volume, to get new clients. That is the one reason. The other reason, of course, is to give you a platform, you the members. A lot of you have great possibilities in terms of services or products, and we don't know about you. And so this is a great way for our members to be able to be profiled and to have a chance, instead of the usual 1-minute elevator speech we give at the lunch locals. This is a chance for really to talk about a little bit more in depth of what you do. Obviously, we want to keep it educational, so it's not necessarily an infomercial for the company, but it gives you really a chance to show all the other members your expertise. Which is amazing. I've been just amazed at the deep knowledge and expertise that our members have in their particular field of experience. So I think I'm always excited to hear our members speak. And so in this case, of course, cybersecurity is a very, very important topic, and that will be what we're going to be talking about tonight. Obviously, one of the things I wanted to welcome you, of course, to our live recording of this. As you know, this will go to our YouTube channel, where we've had hundreds of people actually watching it, which means that these educational series is really becoming something that people, even who outside our chamber, are interested in. So this is a great opportunity to get this information out and also to give a platform to our members. So at this time, I would like to first of all thank our wonderful sponsors. In fact, our newest sponsors. Very excited to announce those for those of you who don't know yet. UCI Health is now our platinum sponsor, and Saddleback Memorial is now our new silver sponsor. And so I'm very excited to have such powerhouses on board with our chamber. And then, of course, we cannot forget our existing sponsors, Cox Communications, SDGE, the Toll Roads, Merlin Geyer, who have always been supportive of us and who have made events like this possible. Of course, I also like to thank the man who founded this educational series, our founding president, Clement Pepe, everybody. Give him a quick round of applause right there, a virtual, as well as our amazing executive director, Jennifer Pointer, everybody, who, unlike me, are very proficient in all matters of Zoom and are able to make these things actually happen. So always appreciate you very much. And so at this point, Clement or Jennifer, would you like to introduce our keynote speaker for today?
I'm going to hand it off to Clement. This is his event that he likes doing, so I'm going to hand that off to him.
All right. Well, yes, thank you. This is very, like as Carl said, this is a very important topic. People are getting knocked off, bumped off, their credit card being taken and done with what they want. There all kinds of different things. So we have an expert here today who has his company Pay Pro Tech and West Coast. And he's going to share with us some information from the inside out about how to help yourself stop business fraud or personal fraud in regards to credit card. So help me welcome, if you would, Jeff Sarek, the Pay Pro Tech West Coast. Jeff.
Thank you, Clement. Thank you guys for being here. I know you guys have taken time out of your day, and for all of you watching and all of you that will be watching later on YouTube and on the internet, welcome. Just to give you a little bit of about my background, I was born and raised here in Southern California, moved around for a while, and moved back here 2 years ago, but I've been in this industry, in the payment processing industry, for close to 17, 18 years now, and I've owned my own company for 9 years. And over those years, things have evolved, not only with technology, but with everything else. But the one thing that unfortunately has not gone away, and has gotten worse as technology has gotten better, is credit card fraud. Now, I'm going to be discussing some things here that will protect you as a business owner against credit card fraud, things you can look out for. And some of these things will help you on a personal level when you're out and about, and things to protect yourself against credit card fraud. A lot of these things you're going to hear me discuss, you're going to have that aha moment, because they're very simple, basic things that you can do to prevent these things from happening. Unfortunately, like I said, the cyber criminals, the criminals out there are always looking for the latest and greatest new ways to stay ahead of the game, like anything else. So I would say the number one thing you can do to protect yourself is just pay attention. Bottom line is just pay attention to your surroundings, pay attention to what's going around you. This report, the first number is a little out of date, but it's still pretty staggering. This was back from 2018. US credit card fraud losses totaled $9.47 billion. That's about almost 11 cents for every $100 spent in credit card fraud. So huge number, and that's only gone up. So let's just dive right into it. The first thing, if you are a business owner, a lot of the business owners have, you walk into a place, you have the physical terminal right there, just a small little machine or point of sale, and you may get somebody that's going to come in. And recently, over the past few years, the technology, they've added this chip technology, and the chip technology was put in place to prevent credit card fraud. It used to be just the magnetic strips, and you'd swipe it, and those could be very easily duplicated in that invert. The way the chips work, and if just a quick knowledge, is when the chip goes into the machine, it creates a code, and that code's only good for that one transaction. And when you go to the next machine, it's no longer good. So if somebody does steal your or duplicate your credit card, the chip's not going to work, because the code, they can't duplicate the code. They can duplicate a physical card, they can make a card look, but getting inside that chip can't duplicate it. But unfortunately, what criminals will do, and what people will do, is they'll walk up to the thing and say, oh, my chip's not working. I know for a fact it's not working. Just go ahead and punch in the credit card number, or just swipe it, or you'll see the card and it's scratched off on the back, and they say, oh, my magnetic strip got damaged, or the chip is damaged. Just go ahead and key it in. That is a red flag for you as a merchant. If somebody comes in with a damaged card like that, most likely it's not their card. They've duplicated the card, and you as a business owner have the right to refuse to take a card. A lot of business owners don't realize that. If you think something's off, if you think something is not right, you have the right to ask for a different form of payment. You have the right to ask for a different card, or just a different form of payment completely. A lot of times you'll see people on the back, credit cards are supposed to be signed, and they're not signed, or it says, a lot of people I know did this for a long period of time. They would put CID. They would write the words CID because they were hoping that the person would flip it over and they'd want to see your ID. And if the person didn't have an ID that matched, that was going to protect them. Technically, that's not supposed to be. In theory, and we know this doesn't happen because everything's about speed. So employees aren't doing this, merchants aren't doing this. In theory, every time I walk in with a credit card and present a credit card, that merchant is supposed to ask for my ID to verify, to make sure that it matches the credit card. 9 times out of 10, that doesn't happen. That's another way you can protect it. So the number one thing, like I said, the card doesn't work in the terminal, the card's damaged, it could be a red flag you want to think. The other thing that could be a red flag is most of us carry with us our wallets or our purses, and we have our credit cards in there. If you are a merchant and somebody comes in to make a purchase, especially if it's a larger purchase, and they pull a credit card out of a shirt pocket and they just have the one credit card, that could potentially be a red flag. You want to pay attention because chances are it may not be their card. Chances are it's stolen, possibly. What if that's the case? What you want to do is ask for a form of ID. Somebody comes in and has just a card by itself, go ahead and ask for an ID because they should have an ID. And if the ID doesn't even come close to matching, once again, you should refuse it. You'll see this a lot of times. Somebody will walk in with a credit card. It's by himself, especially if it's a woman's name and it's a guy. That could be a red flag. And they go, oh, that's my wife's card. Well, ask for a form of ID. If the names don't match, refuse the card. So that's another big thing. You want to match the gender and the card, and don't be afraid to ask for an ID. Don't be afraid to train your employees to ask for an ID. That's another big thing. Another big thing is large purchases over the phone. I've seen this a lot lately, and this has been especially with COVID. I've had businesses where people have called in and they say, hey, I can't make it in, or somebody's going to come in and pick it up. Can I go ahead and just pay for it over the phone? And it's a larger purchase. And I've had this happen. Customer comes in or calls me and says, hey, this guy called me, wanted to make a purchase over the phone, and they go, and the card came up declined because you're keying in the card. Oh, well, that's okay. I've got a different card. And that comes up declined. Oh, wait a minute, I got one more card. And after about the third or fourth try, the transaction goes through. Well, the person's probably on the other end with 3 or 4 stolen credit cards, and they're trying to do it. Now, where this becomes fraud and where this becomes an issue is if I call in and I make a large purchase over the phone and use a stolen credit card, and I say somebody's going to come by and pick up the item. And I actually had this happen in an almost bankrupt company. Person called up, they made a large purchase over the phone. And when I say large purchase, we're talking it was medical supplies, and they used 3 or 4 cards, did it over the phone to the tune of almost $200,000 worth of medical supplies. They then had somebody come to their shipping, pick up these medical supplies, take the physical items with them, okay? And then about a week later, they were contacted by the bank with a chargeback because they were all stolen credit cards, and the person whose cards they really were said, I never made these purchases. They only had done this over the phone, so there was no verification, there was no proof. Not only did they have the $145,000 taken back out of their account, they were also out of the product. So you want, if you're doing something over the phone, if you're especially large purchases, you want to send an invoice to that individual, have that person physically sign the invoice or sign the document so you have a signature on file, and make sure that that person, don't be afraid to sit there and say, okay, if you're going to come pick it up, I need you to send back this invoice, and I need to send a photocopy of your driver's license. And then when they come in to pick up the item, verify and match that driver's license. Bottom line, you as the merchant have every right to refuse a transaction. If you don't feel something is right, something is off, you can refuse, just like the signs you see. We refuse the right to refuse service to anybody. Same thing applies here. Don't feel obligated. If you feel there's a red flag or something's off, feel you can do that. So those are just a few things that you want to make sure, just common sense things. Making sure that the card is a legitimate card, making sure the ID matches. Now, you as an individual out there, there's lots of scary credit card fraud going on. There is technology going up where a criminal can walk through a mall, They have a device on their phone, an app on their phone. They can literally walk through the mall and pick up credit card information without it even leaving your purse or wallet. So you as an individual, if you've got credit cards in your wallet, they sell wallets now that are RFID blockers. They sell cards that you can stick. They look like a credit card. You can stick it in your wallet and it puts out a signal that blocks the RFID chip. And when if you don't know what I'm talking about with the RFID chip, a lot of these cards where you walk up, you can tap your credit card to the machine without even running the credit card. That's got an RFID chip on it. Cyber criminals can get that information from you just by walking by you and steal your credit card information. Another thing that you want to be, and this is something that you as a person can help out and just kind of keep an eye out, gas stations. Big thing that's out there, huge thing. It's happened in the 2 years that I've lived here. I've seen, just in the last year and a half, I've seen 7 stories out of this surrounding area where it's happened, and that's the credit card skimmers. And they happen at ATM machines and gas stations. If you walk up to a gas station and they're pumping, there's the place where you put your credit card in. Before you put your credit card in, just take your fingers on that little device and just give it a slight tug. Because what these credit card skimmers are, they go in the middle of the night where there's no cameras, take this, and it looks just like the credit card reader, and they slide it over the top. And as you're putting your credit card, it's stealing your information. And then they come by in a couple days and pull it off, and it's captured all the credit card information and they've stolen your information. So if you go to the gas station, the ATM, before you put your card in, just give that little plastic piece a little tug. And if it comes off, notify the authorities immediately and the gas station that you found a skimmer. And hopefully they can get the word out, and hopefully there's some cameras in place and they can figure out who put it on there. So short and simple, common sense things, but they're out there. The other thing that you want to pay attention to when it comes to credit card fraud is your bank statements. Not only for you as an individual looking at your bank statements, just checking it on a regular basis, seeing if there's anything, but business owners. Now, one thing, and it's not gotten, I didn't talk about this because it's not gotten, or it's gotten better, but there was a scam out there for a long time where employees were stealing from the employers. And the way they were doing this is on a regular credit card terminal, you can do a return. And it used to be you could just punch in, you say, I want to do a return. And you say, okay, return for $100. And then you insert a credit card. Well, what the employees would do is, if I have my debit card and my bank card, my personal bank card, and I'm working a shift at that store, I go, I want to do a return for $100 or $200. And then I slide my card in, it's going to put that $200 on my bank card. And they were taking money from their employers. Technology's gotten a little better. And with certain processors, if they try and do a return on a card that wasn't used to make the original purchase, it gives a red flag, and the risk department will notify the owner and say, hey, there was a return that was trying to take place on this credit card and it doesn't match. And you have to verify why that was done. So that didn't used to be in place. So that's something that's in place specifically for that reason. People, and there was merchants that were trying to do cash advances on their own credit cards, doing the same thing. I mean, it wasn't stealing, but it was taking their own money. So different reasons. So bottom line, like I said, just pay attention. Always make sure that your equipment is the latest, greatest. If you know of somebody that's got a credit card reader that is not taking chip cards, or if you see of a terminal that's not taking credit cards, or it's swipe only, or the chip function is disabled, that's a red flag. I'd love to talk to them because they need to be updated to protect themselves and get better rates. So that's about it. Open it up if anybody has any questions. Clement.
Yeah, I got a couple of them here. Sometimes when I go to the store or whatever, they'll ask me debit or credit when I punch in is there one better than the other as far as security is concerned?
Not as far as, I mean, depending on your bank, I always use credit because if it's used as a credit card versus a debit card, and I have an issue as the customer where I need to do a return or dispute the charge, the bank will side with you if it's a credit card transaction. If it's a debit card, if you do it as a debit with your PIN-based debit card, it's money coming straight out of your bank account. Depending on your bank, you might be able to do it. The reason that places push for the debit, a lot of times you'll go into a store and they'll force you to, they'll automatically ask you for that 4-digit PIN, is because it's less expensive for them. There was some controversy with some of it with Kroger and a couple other stores, Ralph's, where you didn't have a choice. You had to do debit. And they were doing that because they were getting a better deal. They didn't have to pay credit card fees. So if you can do it as a credit card, I would recommend doing it as a credit card.
Thank you.
I have some questions. I had to do a refund for a different event, refund somebody's credit card. They had purchased something off of Silent Auction that we used their Silent Auction software. We didn't partner with those Silent Auction anymore. So I went ahead and did the credit off our credit card machine to do that, which I could have gotten a check, but it was trying to get a check and 2 signatures was hard. I got authorization to do this. And I was very happy. The bank called me up and said, was this legitimate? Yes, it was. So at least they did make a call. But I'm notorious for going around with one credit card in my pocket that's mine. And I'm kind of lazy about taking my ID with me. And I've noticed so many people don't think twice about doing it. The one thing that's come out of the pandemic is you go to a restaurant and you can actually pay with your credit card right there. They don't check, but then again, they never check credit card ID at restaurants. Plus they take away your credit card, which sometimes makes people nervous because all of a sudden your credit card's been taken away. And there is a skimmer. There's this one gas station on Niguel and Del Avion, the 76 station over there, and they are constantly being skimmed. I mean, I have not gone there for 20 years because they've been being skimmed on and off for decades. I don't know what their problem is, but
yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things, and you know, the pay by the phone, or the new thing where, you know, they bring the thing and you can pay with a QR code. The one thing you want to be careful about, if you're doing that, make sure that your phone is on the cellular network. Make sure that a lot of people will like have their phone on Wi-Fi. Okay. If you're in a restaurant that has public Wi-Fi and you're on that phone's public Wi-Fi, your phone is on the public Wi-Fi, somebody can hack into that and see everything that's going on in that Wi-Fi potentially. And if you're paying your credit card and you're unlocking your phone and paying with your credit card and you're connected to that Wi-Fi, you're potentially opening yourselves up to that information being taken. So if you're in a public place and you're going to be using a credit card through your Apple Pay or whatever, because as soon as Apple Pay is secure, but as soon as you unlock it on your phone, you've opened it up. And if you're on the public Wi-Fi, you've put that information, all the information that's on your phone out there. So you want to make sure that you are not on the public Wi-Fi when you're using your credit card through the phone. Gail? You're muted. Gail, you're muted.
Okay,
wanna
we're out
talk
of, we're
about
out
that
of time
gas
for
station
that question
because
now, Gail.
I'm sorry?
We're out of time for that question. Sorry about that. No.
I've used that, I'm on that same corner and I use that gas station. I've used it for years and they were taking regularly $100 off my account many times, which I challenged and, you know, all of that stuff. So now I go in just to share, Jennifer, I go in and I pay by the card on the machine inside and say, put so much cash on whatever pump. And that works. And I haven't been scammed on it. The other big scam that I had is I had a maid here who I just fired, and I had a credit card that was out. And I didn't really think about it because I was using it for something, right? And she was in my office cleaning, and I started to get charges on that credit card. And I never, I just didn't think anybody would do that, but obviously she did. And it took me, I just got a notice back from the bank. It took me 6 months to get that money back and get verified. The other thing I wanted to tell you, this is a thing that I bought that is a protector. So my credit cards are in there, and this protects. Now, let me, Jeff, ask you that question. Is this a good protector for your credit cards when you're walking through the mall?
Yeah, I mean, the ones that are like that are built with the RFD blockers in them, those are good. The other thing, and that brings up a good point, is if you have a website, a shopping cart. I've seen shopping carts where they're set up to take credit cards, and I've seen this as a customer, the only thing I had to put in was my credit card number and the expiration date. That was it. And the transaction went through. If you have a website, or if you know somebody with a website that is taking credit cards, they want to make sure that it's asking for the credit card, the expiration date, the CVV code, the 3-digit code on the back, or if it's American Express, the 4-digit code on the front, the billing address number, not necessarily the whole address,
Zip code.
and the zip code. And you should be set up so that if all those things are not correct, it will decline the card. Because if someone steals your credit card, like the maid, now in that case, it was going to be a little unique because she was physically in your home. So she would have known the address, she would have known all that information. And so for her to go online and do it. So that's just common sense. That's what I'm talking about. Common sense, leaving your credit cards. And you don't think about it. You get comfortable, you're in your home.
Right.
You wouldn't even think about it.
This is a card I used I had it taped to my computer so I could use it in a specific way. And I just didn't think about that at all.
Nope.
Anyway.
One other thing, I was thinking about this too, Jeff, you were saying about how some of these people, especially with the businesses, are, they're getting a big order, and, and they say that what has con people do so well is usually the greed of another individual, not necessarily the con person, but the greed of someone else. And so it's almost like you get a big order like that as a businessman, especially in the pandemic. And a lot of times you say, oh man, I could, and so you may think, okay, let me sidestep this, I'm going to get this money and so on. And really what I get out of what you're saying, you got to back off and just have these tools and the techniques you just shared with, okay, I know I'm greedy, I know I'd like to get this money, but I'd also like to keep this money in my pocket. So to take those procedures that you talked about, even though we'll be tempted to maybe sidestep some of them.
If I could say something here, as you know, I'm a consultant to small business owners, and I teach them about getting paid. One of the, accounts receivable, huge issue, right? How much time is it going to take to get paid if they choose not to pay? And I had a number of clients who were particularly printers who would give the printing materials to the person who ordered it and give them an invoice to be paid later. And I've seen happen in many occasions when I'm working with a company that uses a lot of printing. They take printing from this one and don't pay, and then they take printing from another and don't pay and don't pay. And my viewpoint on that is, you need to get paid at the time of service.
Yeah.
Collections is a very time-consuming and difficult issue.
Clement, yeah, I agree. And Clement, just to your point, another thing, we're talking about big ticket items. Another thing that business owners need to do to protect themselves, if you're taking credit cards, you need to set up, and you're doing it through a physical machine or whatever, or through an invoice, you need to be capturing a signature on every single transaction, no matter how big the size is. I've seen it where And you'll see a lot of times at McDonald's, the places where it's small ticket items and it's called quick serve and there's no signature required and they hand you your credit card. Great. Here's the drawback to that. And it's not going to be such a big deal with such a McDonald's, but I've been into places. I went into a place where I made a purchase that was $900 and they did not ask me for a signature on the credit card slip. And I said, don't you need me to sign it? No, you're good. We've got it set up for no signatures. It speeds things up. Here's the problem. I purchased that $900 item. I walk out of the store. I don't sign anything. I then call my bank and say, you know what? I've got a charge here for this $900 and I didn't make it. They're going to then go to the merchant and take that money back out of the merchant and say, can you prove that this person did it? Can we see a slip with their signature on it? Nope. Okay. We're going to keep, you lost the $900. And they have no idea who I was, if where I came from or whatever. And there's people that do that. There's people that will go find places that don't require signatures, go in and purchase items. It's actually their credit card. It's not a stolen credit card. Yeah. But then they call their bank and say, I didn't make that charge, or I don't recognize that charge. Oh, no problem. We'll send you a new card. Fine, I'll wait for a new card. And they do this 2 or 3 times. And the banks don't think about it. The banks take the money and the person has the item. And then they take it. I've actually seen it taken a step further where they will buy the item, call the bank, decline the charge, get the money back, then take the item back to the store and return it.
Damn, a double header.
A double header, right?
There's got to be some karma behind that one.
So bottom line is just pay attention and keep your eyes out on your books, on your, on your invoices. Always capture a signature. If it doesn't smell right or doesn't seem right, it's probably not right.
That's some great advice that you got going, because nowadays, also in this era of no one want to touch any money for any while because of COVID, cash overall is still legal tender in this country. Mm-hmm. And as much as credit cards are awesome and everything, cash is still legal tender. I get frustrated where someone goes, oh, we're cash, we're credit card only. And I'm like, yeah, but this actually works. So, but all these things are good and we have to protect ourselves, because I know all of us at one time has been swindled out of money by either our own mistake or by someone being just scrupulous and getting into there. So Jeff is awesome and a person you can go to and say, this happened to me. How can I help myself? What can I do to protect myself better? I'm sure he's got a novels of stuff you can do to protect yourself. I mean, I even at the point now, I mean, my family knows where the credit cards are, but I have credit cards in a funky spot where I keep, because I only keep a couple in my wallet. I have a stack of them. I only keep a couple that I need and I rotate them out. So if there is something that's going on, there's obviously something going on. So, but I keep them in a space that no one would even think of where they are. So, but we really appreciate all your insight to everything.
Yeah, very much so, Jeff.
I have one more question, if I could. This is a little different topic.
Sure.
Sometimes when you put your card into that little machine that they give you, then all of a sudden you get a ton of emails because it's picking up from your card your email address. Do you know anything about that?
Are you talking about putting a credit card in the machine, like in a regular credit card machine?
That's right. And right after that, you're going to get tons of emails.
I would have no clue how that would happen, because the only information that when you put your credit card in, it's only reading the credit card number and the expiration date. There's no way that the credit card machines are picking up your email address unless that place where you went to has, if you're doing like a point of sale system and you have shopped there before and somehow you've given them your email address and your name, and they've got a system in place where it's recognizing your name and you've been there before, but you would have had to physically give that location your email address. That the credit card machines aren't, it's just a coincidence, because credit card machines are not getting your email address. There's no way physical for that to happen.
And they're not
Could you mean
selling
where?
that information. they're not selling your information to other people, because it's usually not them. It's somebody else.
No, I mean, yeah, it's not the bank selling your information or anything like that. No,
Or the merchant.
I haven't heard of that, or the merchant. The merchant doesn't have it. In fact, the merchant doesn't have access to, if it's set up correctly, I've got merchants that have a back office and they can see credit card transactions, but all the information is grayed out. All the card numbers are grayed out. They can only see the last four. They can't see everything. The only person that can see all the information is the actual processor, which is the bank.
All right, why don't we go into the, thank you, Jeff, very much so.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Why don't we go into the 20 to 30-second commercials now? Carl, do you want to run that or you want me to run that?
I think you should run it. I think Carl's probably doing something
I
else.
think, yeah, I think we should. I guess it's.
All right, I'm gonna
siesta
turn off
time.
I'm gonna turn off the recording
No,
for now.
I'm here. I'm here. Just having a hard time between unmuting